Welcome back. This is not another episode. This isn't episode 51. This is episode 3 of our project, Mental Health, a series for men. Today we're going to be talking about two words, pain and peace, and how they correlate and how some people are never able to get to that word peace and they ultimately end their life with the word pain. So, as you can see, Gannon's next to me for this one. He's back in town. I know episode 1, I said that he's never in town, so
look who's here. I'm going to be on probably half of them now.
yeah, he made it in town, so he's going to help me out with a couple of these episodes. We're going to have to add some stuff to these episodes and all that fun stuff, but let's dive into this. The previous 2 episodes, we talked about how not everyone stays, and we also talked about how you could be in a room full of people and you still feel alone, or you could be in a grocery store and the grocery store is jam-packed, but you still feel alone. Whatever it is, those are the 2 topics we've discussed so far. So now for episode 3, we're going to talk about pain and peace. So I'm going to start it off by just talking a little bit about what the word pain means to me, and then Gannon can discuss what he thinks it means to him. But for me, the word pain is simple but complex at the same time. When you think about the word pain, you think about hurting, whether it's mentally or physically. It could be getting hurt in a football game where you get tackled and someone rings your head and you're concussed. That's pain. Another form of pain could be the mental side of it, which is typically the very tough side of things where you're not able to understand and grasp why that pain is there. But the funny thing about physical pain is more often than not, physical pain, when you're in physical pain, it leads to that mental pain. I know I've watched a couple documentary series where NFL players have incredible injuries that could end their career. Alex Smith, for example, with the leg injury, I know the documentary series they have on him and the E60 or whatever it is, that physical pain immediately led to mental pain because you can't do anything about it, and it becomes a mental health struggle. But that's what the word pain means to me. It's more typically something that is a lot more than we can understand. It's not something that's very simple. But to many people, when you say the word pain, you immediately know what they're talking about. You know what it is. But there's a side to it that a lot of people don't truly understand or maybe never even go through. So that's what pain means to me.
I think first off, before I want to dive into the pain and that subject with it, we're kind of in the time of the Olympics right now. It's in full force. I really want to say shout out to Simone Biles and all the other athletes. Don't know all of them by name, but she and the other athletes kind of been on the front lines, just, advocating mental health, kind of taking time off, skipping events, coming back, just making sure that they're in a good mental space. So I really am happy to see that. I know Bryce and I have discussed that. It's really cool to see that be kind of on all over social media and everybody really just talking about it now, which it's way overdue, but that's really cool to see. That's kind of a side note. That was a good point to start with. But pain, I've never gone through like a serious injury or like a season-ending thing, something, that's jeopardized my career, which is a type of pain that I don't know, so I don't really experience that, so I'm not going to really, talk on that. But the pain on the field and off the field are go hand in hand, but the pain off the field, which is more of the mental side of stuff, is the most severe pain. We got to be honest with that. That's more severe than a lot of the physical pain you go through. But the physical pain is a really big part of athletics that go hand in hand with the mental stuff. They really take mental health to a whole nother area, a whole nother topic that gets people kind of, over the edge or over the hump in the bad way. But my version of the pain, it's when the pain is that big, it consumes your day, I think, is the biggest part. It's on your mind, whether it's athletics, sports, school, social life. At least for me, talking that when it's the bad days. But that's the thing, it's kind of in and out. You're just having something to deal with, something you have to live with. Not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's something kind of unique that's about people that you kind of learn more about yourself than I know I have. Kind of just dealing with stuff. It's an everyday battle. I know I talked to Bryce about that, but the pain, when it gets deep, is just the mental side of stuff, and it can consume your day, and that's when it becomes painful, and it sucks to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and pain can come from, realistically, it can come from anything.
Yeah.
It could be something as simple as just hearing the wrong comment in a room where your friends are at, and you hear the one comment, you think or they think that they're messing around with you. But
one word
can become pain, and it could resonate within you for days, weeks, months. I mean, not everyone has thick skin. So be careful what you say around people. Not everyone takes it the same. A lot, like your friends may think they're just messing with you, but not everyone truly knows what's going on inside someone's head. I know I've been in that situation before. I've been in situations where I've been with my friends, and I wouldn't typically call myself a guy that has thick skin. I'm kind of more of a sensitive guy. Uh, when I hear things, I kind of take them to heart, which can be a blessing and a curse. I know there's certain things where it's obvious that your friends are joking with you, and you should just take it as a joke, and you should just rub it off and laugh with them. But it doesn't work like that for every single person, which can cause deep pain. It can also make you feel a little bit paranoid about whether these friends are so-called or actually your friends. I know I've questioned things like that before when I was in a dark place. There'd be times where I'm with my childhood friends that I've grown up with my whole life, and I hear one thing and it just sets my mental health off, and the anxiety flares up, anxiety attacks happen, panic attacks.
So now, like, to counteract that, what are some stuff that you do to kind of find the peace when stuff kind of gets painful? Like, what are some things that you do to flip? Because I know that's kind of the transition. I just want to know, asking you kind of flip the script here. What are some things that you do to counteract that when stuff gets like that? Because it happens.
Oh no, I totally agree. It happens.
What are stuff that you have found over the last couple of years dealing with it to work?
I'd say if there's things that work, I kind of
even help. I mean, it doesn't really work or fix things, but just what's something
that you do that's what we talked about.
Help. Yeah,
that's what we talked about in episode 1 and episode 2.
It's steering it to get in the right direction is what it needs to be.
And it's not a fix, like you said, like you corrected yourself. Episode 1 and episode 2, we touched on that for quite a bit, just talking about how you're never going to fix your mental health. You're never going to fix that pain. You're going to be able to cope and manage with that pain, which can lead to peace.
You're trying to even them out this much.
Yeah.
So then because that much will be in the more of the happiness area then when you kind of even them out.
Yeah, but to answer your question about how I handled that pain, or how I handled
just even now, just daily stuff.
Things
that set you off.
Obviously, I've mentioned this first 2 episodes. Therapy, counseling, that's the best route. In my opinion, not everyone wants to talk, but sometimes just sitting there, and even if you don't want to talk, sitting there, you'll find yourself all of a sudden spitting out 1,000+ words and being like, "Wow, maybe I didn't want to talk, but I needed to talk." And that was the biggest thing for me. Counseling is key. It is absolute key to understanding things that are going on inside your brain, and it helps you understand the route that your brain has taken to understand why your brain is feeling the way it is. So my biggest example for it would be, say we live in a world without GPS right now. Say GPS goes down for an entire day, and your family's going to Florida the next day, or during that day. They're going to Florida, and you have a place booked already, and you don't want to cancel that place. So you're gonna make the drive, and your parents are feeling good about using the old map system or whatever. But say you're driving there and you get lost multiple times, like you can't find your way. That's what your brain is, and when you go to therapy, you're able to understand how to take the easiest and simplest route, how to get to that peace without having to constantly have that reminder of that pain every single day. Because I'm sure as hell positive that it would be a pain if you were going to Florida without a GPS and you didn't know how to use a map.
So what are some things that you do then, quick or short term, kind of quick thoughts, quick things that are small, or like some little things?
Well, the littlest things I would say is,
just the flip side of it.
Yeah, no, the littlest things are just
quick on the spot.
It sounds cliche, it sounds dumb, it sounds corny, whatever, but the basic thing you could do is sit there, close your eyes, count to 10, take deep breaths throughout that count to 10. I know my mom growing up, she always told me if I was having a bad day, blah blah blah, close my eyes, count to 10, and then count back down to 1. Go all the way back down to 1 and take deep breaths throughout that, and it'll slow your heart rate. It'll slow your thought process down. Focus on your breathing in and out. If you can focus on that, that's major. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast where he was talking about he had an interview with David Sinclair. Just check that out. It's actually a very great interview. But he was talking about how with his mental health that he goes through, he can't sleep at night sometimes, which I go through them same issues, tossing and turning, and your thoughts just eat you alive. And he kind of mentioned the same thing that I deal with. Going to sleep, you're thinking about a project that you're working on. You're thinking about what your next episode is going to be like, what your next day is going to be, the encounters you're going to have, the people you're going to have to talk to, whatever it is. You constantly think about that in your sleep, trying to fall asleep. So he said, close your eyes and focus on your breath. That in and out aspect of it, if you're able to concentrate on that in and out repetitively, it will slow you down. It will slow them thoughts down. But the thing he mentioned is, which I think is very important, is it's not always going to work immediately. You may go right back into that thought process, but then settle yourself down. Think about the in and out.
With it, it's not going to be overnight.
For sure. I mean, you could do it repetitively for 30 days, and it's not going to be something that just works all the time. Some days you're just going to be up at night late thinking. That's just natural. It's natural when you think about it in reality. But, I mean, when you get down to it, having pain, it's tough. It's very tough. It's a tough conversation for people to have, to acknowledge that pain more often than not when it's mental. Obviously, when it's physical, it's a little bit more obvious. People know you're going through a broken leg or a concussion, and people see that, but people don't see what's inside your head. They see what's on the what's on the outside. It's easier to see what's going on in the exterior than it is the interior, and that's the crazy part about life is pain's tough. It's very tough. But I'm gonna ask Gannon a question. I know he mentioned before we recorded this episode that he played summer ball this summer out in the Dakotas, and with his team and a couple of players and stuff, he talked about mental health and they talked about all these issues. So, what kind of topics did you guys discuss? Did you talk anything about pain or peace or anything related to that?
Man, it's crazy because it's how quick stuff changes. Like, just it's going to lead me into my point. How stuff quick change when you graduate high school. It's been a little over 2 years now for me. How stuff quick changes for you, socially, athletically, academically, your home life, your family life. Just everything changes so quick when you get old and you kind of go away from home and move away. You're really on your own and find out a lot about yourself, and that also comes with the ups and downs. And there's been a lot of downs, and I wasn't the only one. But a lot of these guys that have played summer ball, shout out the boys. I know they're tuning in. They're really big supporters of this podcast. But a lot of those guys have been in similar positions, not having a lot of playing time right away, went through an injury. Some of these guys were in 40-day quarantines at a time this spring with little to no food, lost 20 pounds, were really skinny, and that really affected their mental health, not even on the field production and stuff. And I ended up ruining their season in that aspect. But
that's pain.
And that's the pain. A lot of it was reflection, just like be like at midnight, we'd have a 3-hour bus trip back home. We just get done with the game at 11. We just stay up and talk because like these guys, you were just so new in meeting them. So all their stories were new about their experiences and mine also. So you just bounce stuff back and forth. And how the cool thing was how similar my stuff was to other people.
That's the best part. I think it's very refreshing to hear.
It was really awesome because there was no leverage, anything pulling you in any direction because there wasn't any school ties, any school going on or your school baseball. So a lot of it was just talking about the pain, and it's like it really opens your eyes to stuff that even it makes you seem like your stuff isn't that big to what some other people have gone through. Yeah. And that's kind of like a motivation to like, hey, kind of just sometimes you just got to pick it up and deal with it. But I think the common thing that I've found with all these guys is baseball's a game at the end of the day. And I think that's the biggest stuff that my mind's transitioned to instead of just something that I did every year and that was in my life forgiven. Now I'm taking it more for granted because, stuff happens quick in your life. You don't know what's going to happen down the road. And if stuff doesn't work out that way, I'm going to be okay with it, knowing that stuff didn't affect me once I left the field. And I think that's the biggest thing now that a lot of those guys that I talked with this summer have realized that, hey, at the end of the day, you go 0 for 4 with a couple strikeouts or you have 5 walks on the mound, that type of stuff. At the end of the day, there's more to it. And those experiences and everything that we made this summer, and with all my prior teammates my entire life, all the way back when Bryce and I started playing, that's way more important than what goes on the field stats-wise. So that's kind of what coming to finding my piece, which is kind of still happening and still in the process of right now, but is really taken off just talking with these guys which is almost like a therapy session for
Mhm.
people, because some people said like, hey man, like what I'm telling you right now, I haven't really told anybody else.
Yeah.
Or like just family stuff, like, hey, this stuff's going on. And that makes you think twice, and it just makes you look at a person, I know, and you just look at them differently, but in such a good way, because you feel a connection that I know 3 or 4 of those guys that I know that I met in just 2 months are going to be my best friends for the rest of my life, that I'm going to invite to my wedding, just from some of those talks and getting to know that trust level and factor. You could feel that in between people, and you could just, I told those guys I could keep talking for a whole day straight. I could, just talking about stories and how people deal with stuff, but that's the interesting thing, man. It just really opens your eyes.
Yeah, and that's major vulnerability, and that's why the relationships last so long. Typically, relationships last very long when each person can be vulnerable to each other. Whether it's just you and your friends, you in a relationship with a spouse. Uh, if you're vulnerable to each other, it leads to greatness. It leads to a relationship that succeeds.
I mean, before to interrupt you, when you're talking about friends and stuff, now is something that I'm looking for in a person as a reality or as a characteristic, that like the support, acknowledging that it's an actual thing, it's an actual topic that needs to be discussed about. I think that's kind of a bigger thing that I've focused on, just talking to people, that some people that don't really care for it. Well, that's kind of some reason why I might not, don't be honest, but not talk to you. But like you got to at least acknowledge it. And I think that's the good thing that we're doing with this, the podcast, this topic, everything going on in the sports world is flipping over a rock.
Yeah.
That has not been flipped or even moved for a long time, and it needs to be, because it's an everyday thing for people getting paid $500 million for professional contracts all the way down to high schoolers. And there's a lot of factors in there.
Yeah, I know when you were talking about the summer with your teammates and such. When I was listening, I picked up a point that you made about how everyone has similar stories and you're able to relate. But the beauty of it is that those stories are also different. There's circumstances that make those stories different, whether it be this happened to that happened, blah blah blah. All stories can be different, and I think that's the beauty within it, is that when you're able to find relation to someone else's story, but yet it's still different. You guys are able to have different talking points on how to kind of cope with that pain and understand each other's different stories. And I think that helps lead to the peace. But now I kind of want to talk about uh, we talked about pain and peace together, and we've talked about pain separately. So now I want to wrap this up. I really just want to talk about like the pretty much the toughest subject we'll have to deal with throughout this project is, why do people never get to that peace? There's people that that take the route out of life, and they end it for themselves, which is very sad, very depressing. Uh, it's a touchy subject. In all reality, it's hard to kind of talk about because we don't want to say the wrong things with this subject, because obviously we're still here. And
because we haven't personally, I know, close family or friends, I have not dealt with anything. So yeah, it's
in my lifetime, I have not either.
So
we're I'll lay that law down right there. Like, we haven't had to deal with this. So if you're someone listening who has had to deal with this, we are incredibly sorry that you've had to deal with this. My intention is not to say anything wrong.
This is all just
here.
From stories and stuff that we've heard of other stuff that has happened. Why? I mean, there's a lot of factors. I mean, there you go the route with athletics, with Junior Seau, other people that have done stuff because of physical harm to their body from athletics that wasn't maybe there prior to the athletics being played. There's just a lot of different stuff. And a lot of it, I know, just doesn't happen in the short term leading up to the decision to do it. It's a lot of factors over their entire life. And there's a lot of, with the support systems, I know that goes hand in hand with some of the type of stuff.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think those factors just...
There's so many scenarios. Again, it's like life. Anything's unique and different. You really just, everyone's affected differently by it.
Yeah.
And why it happens. It's all different reasons ultimately.
Yeah, for sure. And for anyone that has a family member or a friend that's lost their life to suicide, or you have a friend or family member that's attempted suicide,
or feel that
it
might be
a possibility
in the near future, please contact someone.
Reach out, call the suicide hotline. I don't have the number next to me, otherwise
call somebody. Just literally tell anybody. It doesn't,
but get on top of it before it's too late. Check in on people every single I mean, don't, to be over the top, do it every single day. I mean, because you don't know when someone's day is going to be their last. You can lose life within a split second, a snap of a finger, and they're just gone. So get on top of it if you have the tiniest bit of a feeling that something's not right. Uh, reach out to someone. Reach out to someone who's close to that person, or if you're close to that person, get on top of it with them. Help them figure it out. Help them acknowledge it, and help them get the help they need. But for next episode,
I think one more thing that I'd like to say before that, the peace part, we did talk about it. It's such a touchy subject, sad touchy subject to talk about, but we also need to realize that the peace is also a really happy medium going into that. When you start getting signs of it and kind of, different type of stuff starts going your way, starts turning that way, that's also a really great feeling after going through stuff beforehand. We don't want to leave that out there to make it seem like everything's just so bad. That's why the good's also, because then you can look back, kind of laugh at stuff, kind of just joke with people like, hey, look at this, I was there at this point, like now look where I'm at, that type of stuff.
And I can tell you firsthand,
that type of stuff just makes
feeling.
you feel good, and that's the motivation when other stuff pops up. I know for me too, but just wanted to say it's also the good side with peace is also really nice.
I'll share one more thing too on this subject, is just that I actually said this to someone yesterday. I said, look where I'm at. Like I straight up said to my friend, I was like, look where I'm at with my mental health now. Like look where I'm at, and it made me proud. It made me proud of myself. A couple years ago, I was just playing college baseball, just doing my own thing. I didn't really have an outlook on life. I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do with my future. And through getting on top of my mental health, I was able to decide I wanted to be done playing baseball. That was a major decision in my life, something I've done my whole life. Another major decision was to start this podcast, be vulnerable, and get in front of a camera all the time. As someone who struggles with anxiety, that's tough to do. But I sat there yesterday and I realized, wow, like I'm in a whole different place. So if you're in a place right now that's not great, don't look at me like I'm just a person saying, holy crap, I'm in a great place. And I'm not trying to brag or anything. I'm just trying to be, I'm trying to show you that I'm an example of it, that you can do it too. You can be a person who can get better, and your mental health can get better. And you'll feel a crap ton better, I can tell you that. And when it comes down to it, pain to peace is really the same thing as sadness to happiness. It's just the route that you endure. It's the road that you take. It's the path that you take to get to that peace and that happiness. It all comes full circle as soon as you acknowledge that you have an issue, that something's going on in your life, and it gets better. It truly gets better. Trust me on that. I know a lot of people say that, but it does.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I think this was a great discussion on this topic. Next topic, we're going to be talking about what's wrong, which is a question that a lot of us ask people when they feel like something's going on. So tune in for that. More details will come out when the episode's made. So enjoy this one. Reach out to someone if you need help. Take the initiative to help yourself. We can't wait to see you guys for this next episode.